Before you move on, pause for just a moment. There are moments in life that seem ordinary until a single unexpected discovery changes everything. This is one of those moments. Imagine waking up to a day that appears no different from any other. The same sky. The same quiet thoughts. The same unanswered questions you've carried for far too long. Yet beneath the surface, unseen pieces are already moving into place. Somewhere, a person you've never met is searching for someone whose name they have never been able to forget. That someone is you. Not because of fame. Not because of status. Not because of anything the world measures. But because a truth that remained hidden for years is finally finding its way into the light. You have spent seasons believing that silence meant nothing was happening. Yet silence often conceals the greatest movement. Seeds grow in silence. Dawn arrives quietly. The strongest foundations are built where no applause can be heard. What if every delay you complained about was protecting a moment that required perfect timing? Think about that for a moment. How many times did you almost give up? How many nights did you convince yourself that forgotten dreams never return? How many mornings did you smile for others while quietly wondering whether your own story had already reached its ending? You were never as forgotten as you believed. While you questioned your direction, another story was unfolding far beyond your sight. Documents changed hands. Old memories resurfaced. People who thought certain chapters were closed began asking unexpected questions. A single name continued appearing where nobody expected it. Your name. Coincidence? Perhaps. Or perhaps some stories simply refused to stay buried forever. Imagine someone sitting inside a quiet office surrounded by folders that have collected years of dust. Most people would walk past them without a second glance. Yet on one ordinary afternoon, curiosity leads to one forgotten file. A page turns. Then another. Then another. Each page raises more questions than answers. Something doesn't fit. Something important has been overlooked. And suddenly the search begins. Not because someone planned it. Because truth has a remarkable way of finding those willing to keep looking. Meanwhile, your own life continues exactly as before. You answer messages. You handle responsibilities. You wonder why progress feels slow. Completely unaware that somewhere beyond your daily routine, events are unfolding that may soon reach your doorstep. The remarkable thing about life's greatest turning points is that they rarely announce themselves in advance. They whisper before they roar. And whispers are easy to ignore. That is why this story asks you not to rush away. Because sometimes the smallest detail becomes the doorway to everything that follows. What if the chapter you believed was over was only the introduction? What if the ending you feared never truly existed? And what if someone you've never spoken to already knows your name because of something discovered by accident? Questions have a strange power. They stretch the imagination. They awaken hope. They remind us that certainty isn't always the safest place to live. There is another detail. One that almost nobody notices at first. The search isn't motivated by greed. It isn't fueled by revenge. It isn't about exposing someone publicly. It begins because one person refuses to ignore something that feels deeply wrong. Integrity can seem invisible in today's world. Yet every so often, one honest decision changes hundreds of lives. One careful reader notices one overlooked sentence. One overlooked sentence leads to another question. That question leads to another document. And before long, a path appears where everyone else believed there was only a dead end. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest before sunrise. Everything looks still. Nothing appears to move. Yet hidden behind every tree, morning is already arriving. That is how unseen change often works. Long before your eyes recognize it, light has already begun its journey. Perhaps you have been measuring your life by visible progress while missing invisible preparation. Preparation doesn't feel exciting. It feels slow. It feels lonely. It feels ordinary. Yet nearly every extraordinary story spends most of its life disguised as an ordinary one. There is a reason this moment found you. Not because it promises instant answers. Not because every mystery will disappear overnight. But because hope sometimes arrives disguised as curiosity. And curiosity keeps us walking long enough to discover what certainty never could. Some people stop searching 5 minutes before the answer appears. Some people abandon their dream one season before everything changes. Imagine carrying a key for years without realizing which door it belongs to. Would the key be worthless? Or would its value simply remain hidden until the right door appeared? Life has a way of introducing doors only after we've learned how to carry the key. Perhaps that is why waiting feels so difficult. We believe nothing is happening. Yet unseen preparation often requires more patience than visible success. The search continues. Every discovery creates another mystery. Every answer uncovers another question. The person looking refuses to give up. Because every piece points towards someone whose story deserves to be completed. Someone whose absence from the truth has lasted far too long. That person may be closer than anyone realizes. But one final discovery has not yet been made. A discovery so unexpected that when it appears, everything believed until this moment will have to be reconsidered. And that discovery hasn't happened yet. This is a fictional inspirational story. The quiet search continues, but something has changed. The person reviewing those forgotten records can no longer dismiss what they have uncovered as coincidence. Every page seems to whisper the same unanswered question. Every signature points toward a path that was abandoned long ago. Every missing detail somehow circles back to one name. Yours. Yet no one understands why. Far away, you continue living your ordinary life, unaware that invisible threads are drawing closer together. You wake up carrying responsibilities that no one else fully understands. You smile when necessary. You encourage others even while wondering when your own breakthrough will finally arrive. If you could see beyond this very moment, your heart would realize that not every answer comes with noise. Some of the greatest turning points begin with quiet footsteps that nobody notices until they are standing at the door. Have you ever wondered why certain delays felt strangely different? Why opportunities disappeared just before you reached them? Why paths you desperately wanted somehow closed without explanation? What if those closed doors were not rejection at all? What if they were protection? Because there are seasons when receiving something too early would have felt like a blessing, yet eventually become a burden. Perfect timing rarely feels perfect while you're waiting for it. It only becomes clear when you finally look back. The searcher discovers another document. This one is older. Its edges are worn. Its ink has faded. Most people would overlook it without a second glance. But something about a single handwritten note refuses to let their attention move away. The note isn't dramatic. It isn't loud. Yet it changes everything. Suddenly, what looked like separate events begin fitting together like pieces of a puzzle that had been scattered across years. The search grows more urgent. Not because of fear. Because the truth deserves to be completed. Meanwhile, you notice something unusual inside yourself. A quiet stirring. A feeling that life cannot remain the same forever. You cannot explain it. You cannot prove it. But somewhere deep within, hope begins returning in a way you haven't experienced for a long time. Perhaps that feeling isn't accidental. Perhaps your heart senses movement before your eyes can see it. There are moments when heaven seems silent, not because nothing is happening, but because the foundations are still being prepared. Builders do not celebrate while pouring the foundation. Farmers do not celebrate while planting seeds. Yet both understand something important. The invisible work always comes first. The visible harvest always comes later. Do not mistake hidden progress for empty waiting. The two are not the same. As evening falls, another unexpected discovery appears. A forgotten witness. Not someone famous. Not someone powerful. Simply a person who remembers one small detail everyone else ignored. Sometimes history changes because one ordinary person refuses to forget what everyone else overlooked. That memory unlocks another question. Another question opens another file. Another file reveals another connection. The pattern is becoming impossible to deny. Someone quietly says, "We have to find this person." The room falls silent. No one argues. Because everyone suddenly understands that this search is no longer about paperwork. It is about making something right. Yet even now, no one knows where to begin. Your trail has grown cold through the passing years. Addresses changed. Phone numbers disappeared. People moved away. Time seemed determined to erase every trace. But truth has remarkable patience. It waits. It remembers. It keeps knocking until someone finally opens the right door. You have often wondered whether your unseen acts of kindness mattered. Whether the prayers whispered through tears mattered. Whether choosing forgiveness instead of bitterness mattered. Nothing given with a sincere heart is ever truly lost. Even when the world forgets, goodness leaves echoes that travel farther than you imagine. There is another reason this story found you today. Not to promise that tomorrow will solve every struggle. Not to suggest that every question disappears overnight. But to remind you that hope grows strongest just before people are tempted to abandon it. Many leave the journey moments before the destination appears. Don't become one of them. Keep walking. Keep believing that your story contains chapters you have not yet read. Because the search is no longer moving slowly. It has reached a point where one final confirmation is all that remains. One signature. One conversation. One unexpected meeting. The searcher leans back, looking at everything spread across the desk. For the first time, they realize this isn't simply about finding someone. It's about delivering news that has been waiting far longer than anyone imagined. News capable of changing the direction of an entire future. The phone is lifted. A number is about to be dialed. But before the call can begin, someone walks into the room carrying one small envelope that nobody expected to see. The moment it is opened, every assumption changes. And your name is spoken once again. This is a fictional inspirational story. The room becomes impossibly still. No one reaches for another document. No one speaks. The envelope rests quietly on the desk, ordinary in appearance, yet carrying a weight that everyone can feel before a single word is read. The searcher carefully unfolds the paper inside. A few short lines. A familiar date. One forgotten reference. And then, your name appears again. This time, there is no uncertainty. No debate. No hesitation. The pieces that had remained scattered for so many years suddenly begin fitting together with astonishing clarity. One person quietly whispers, "This changes everything." The others nod without saying another word. Some truths are so powerful they silence every unnecessary conversation. Meanwhile, your day continues as though nothing unusual is happening. You answer another phone call. You finish another task. You encourage someone who has no idea your own heart has been carrying questions for so long. How remarkable life can be. The very day that unseen doors begin opening, everything on the outside often looks exactly the same. That is why so many people miss the beginning of their greatest season. They expect fireworks. Instead, they receive quiet preparation. They expect instant celebration. Instead, they are invited into patient expectation. Do not underestimate quiet beginnings. A sunrise never rushes. Yet it transforms the entire horizon. The searcher studies every page once more. One detail refuses to leave their mind. It isn't what was written. It's what was never written. An omission. A missing explanation. A silence that should never have existed. Sometimes the loudest truth is hidden inside what everyone failed to notice. That missing piece becomes the next destination. Another archive. Another conversation. Another person who may remember what others have forgotten. The search continues with renewed determination. Not because anyone is chasing success. Because they believe every unfinished story deserves an honest ending. At that very moment, something inside you begins to shift. You cannot explain why. Perhaps it's a memory that suddenly returns. Perhaps it's an unexpected sense of peace arriving without warning. Perhaps it's simply the quiet realization that you cannot remain the same person you were yesterday. Growth rarely announces itself. It simply begins. Little by little. Choice by choice. Day by day. Many people believe transformation happens in one dramatic moment. More often, it begins with one small decision repeated faithfully until an entirely new future quietly appears. The searcher finally reaches someone whose name had not been mentioned in years. An elderly voice answers. Gentle. Patient. Thoughtful. At first, they remember very little. Time has softened many details. But then one simple question unlocks a memory hidden beneath decades of ordinary life. I remember, the voice says. I never forgot that name. Silence fills the room again. Not because anyone planned it. Because every answer seems to create an even greater mystery. The elderly witness describes a conversation from years ago. A conversation so ordinary at the time that nobody realized its importance. Yet looking back now, it explains why the truth disappeared before it ever reached the person who needed it most. There had been confusion. Assumptions. Missed opportunities. People believing someone else would take responsibility. No malicious plan. No grand conspiracy. Just human mistakes quietly growing larger with every passing year. And still, the story refused to disappear. Truth has a remarkable endurance. It waits with extraordinary patience until hearts are finally ready to receive it. You may wonder why this fictional story speaks so often about waiting. Because waiting is where many people lose hope. Not in the storm. Not in the battle. But in the silence between questions and answers. Yet silence is not always empty. Sometimes silence is where unseen preparation becomes strongest. Imagine an artist standing before a blank canvas. To someone walking past, nothing appears to be happening. Yet inside the artist's imagination, every color has already found its place. The masterpiece exists long before the first brushstroke. Life often unfolds in the same way. The unseen picture begins before visible change. The searcher closes the final folder and looks toward the window. The sun has almost disappeared below the horizon. Another day is ending. Yet instead of disappointment, there is growing certainty. Tomorrow will not be an ordinary day. Something important has crossed the line between possibility and reality. Someone must now be contacted. Someone must finally hear what has remained hidden for far too long. A message begins to take shape. Every word is chosen carefully. Not because the news is frightening. Because moments that change a person's life deserve gentleness. They deserve honesty. They deserve compassion. As the letter is prepared, another unexpected discovery appears. A small photograph slips from between two old pages. No one knows how it remained hidden for so long. The searcher turns it over. Written on the back, in faded handwriting, is a single sentence. When the time is right, this will find its way home. The room falls silent once again. No one can explain those words. No one knows who wrote them. Yet everyone feels that they have arrived exactly when they were meant to. The letter is sealed. The next step can no longer be delayed. But just as the searcher reaches for the telephone, a notification appears on the screen. It contains one new piece of information. One location. One recent update. And for the very first time, the searcher realizes that finding you may be much closer than anyone ever imagined. This is a fictional inspirational story. Morning arrives with an unusual sense of expectancy. Nothing about the sunrise seems different to the people rushing through their daily routines. Cars continue down familiar roads. Coffee grows cold on office desks. Conversations begin and end without anyone realizing that an extraordinary moment is quietly drawing closer. Yet somewhere, someone cannot shake the feeling that today is the day. The searcher returns to the office before anyone else. The room is silent except for the soft turning of pages and the distant sound of rain against the window. One final review. One final comparison. One final attempt to make sure nothing has been overlooked. Truth deserves that kind of patience. It deserves to be handled carefully, especially when it has waited this long to be revealed. As the clock moves forward, another message arrives. It is brief. Only a few sentences. But those few sentences answer a question that had remained unresolved through every previous step of the investigation. The location is confirmed. The timeline makes sense. The missing gap finally disappears. The search is no longer about possibilities. It has become a mission. At that same moment, your life continues with familiar rhythms. Perhaps you are wondering whether your quiet efforts matter. Perhaps you are carrying dreams that seem to have lost their voice. Perhaps you have grown tired of hoping for answers that never seem to arrive. If so, remember this. The longest nights are not proof that morning has forgotten you. They are often the final stretch before light reaches the horizon. Many people measure progress only by what they can immediately see. But some of life's greatest movements begin beneath the surface, where no applause can reach. A tree spends years growing roots before anyone admires its branches. The searcher looks again at the photograph found the day before. There is something about it that refuses to leave their thoughts. Not the image itself. The sentence written on the back. When the time is right, this will find its way home. Home. Such a simple word. Yet it carries the weight of belonging. Of restoration. Of finally arriving where something always should have been. The searcher quietly whispers, maybe that's what this has always been about. Not paperwork. Not forgotten records. But restoration. The kind that reaches beyond documents and touches hearts. The kind that reminds people that even delayed truth still has the power to heal. Another phone call is made. This one lasts much longer. Questions are asked. Stories are shared. Old memories, nearly buried beneath years of ordinary life, begin returning with surprising clarity. One person remembers a conversation from decades ago. Another remembers seeing a letter that never reached its destination. Someone else recalls hearing your name spoken with deep respect, even though they never understood why. Piece by piece, a picture begins to emerge. It is larger than anyone expected. The searcher leans back and realizes that this story has quietly connected people who never even knew they were part of the same journey. Sometimes purpose works that way. It gathers scattered pieces long before anyone recognizes the design. Meanwhile, you sense something changing within yourself. Not because you have received new information. Not because circumstances have suddenly improved. But because hope has begun speaking louder than fear. That quiet voice inside you, the one that kept telling you not to give up, has not disappeared. It has simply been waiting for you to hear it again. Never underestimate the strength of hope that survives difficult seasons. Hope is not blind optimism. It is the decision to keep moving even when tomorrow cannot yet be seen. The searcher stands near the window once more. Rain has stopped. Sunlight breaks through the clouds. It feels almost symbolic. Not because the weather has changed. Because perspective has. For days, the investigation seemed impossible. Now every new discovery points in the same direction. Toward you. One of the assistants quietly enters the room carrying another folder. I think you'll want to see this. The searcher opens it without expectation. Inside is something no one believed still existed. An original handwritten statement. Time has faded the ink, but not the meaning. Every line confirms what had only been suspected before. The room grows silent again. Not from uncertainty. From amazement. After all these years, the truth remained intact. Hidden. Waiting. Patient. Almost as though it understood that the right moment would eventually arrive. The searcher carefully places the document back into its protective cover. This cannot wait any longer, they say. We have to reach them. The entire office agrees. Plans begin immediately. Names are checked. Addresses are compared. Every possible lead is reviewed one last time. No shortcuts. No assumptions. Only careful determination. Because moments like this deserve excellence. Outside, the world carries on without noticing. Children laugh. Neighbors wave. Birds cross the afternoon sky. Ordinary life continues. Yet hidden within that ordinary day is a story quietly approaching its turning point. Perhaps that is how many miracles begin. Not with loud announcements. But with faithful steps taken by people who refuse to stop seeking what is right. As evening approaches, the searcher receives one final update. A current address. A possible contact. A path that did not exist only yesterday. For the first time, the distance between the search and the person being searched for feels incredibly small. The letter is picked up once again. Every word is read aloud to make certain it carries both truth and kindness. No sentence is rushed. No detail is ignored. Because after waiting so many years, this moment deserves to be remembered. The envelope is sealed. The phone is placed beside it. Only one choice remains. Send the letter. Or make the call. The searcher reaches toward the telephone. Then suddenly stops. A new message flashes across the screen. It contains 3 unexpected words that change the entire direction of the search. They already know. And in that breathtaking instant, every person in the room realizes someone else has reached you first. This is a fictional inspirational story. No one in the room moves. The 3 words remain on the screen as though time itself has paused. They already know. The searcher reads them again. Then a third time. How could that be? For weeks, every step had pointed toward a future conversation that had not yet happened. Every document, every memory, every careful discovery suggested that the truth was still waiting to be delivered. Yet now, everything has shifted. Someone else has already reached out. Not with noise. Not with celebration. Simply with quiet certainty. The searcher immediately begins asking questions. Who contacted them? When did it happen? What exactly was said? The answers do not arrive all at once. Instead, they appear slowly, like stars becoming visible one by one after sunset. Sometimes the greatest revelations are not hidden because they are impossible to find. They are hidden because they must be uncovered in the right order. At that very moment, you continue through your day. Perhaps you notice a familiar place that suddenly feels different. Perhaps an old memory returns without warning. Perhaps a conversation lingers in your thoughts long after it ends. You cannot explain why. But your heart senses that something unseen is drawing near. There are seasons when life whispers before it speaks. Many people miss those whispers because they are waiting for something dramatic. Yet lasting change often begins quietly. One unexpected conversation. One forgotten memory. One decision to believe that hope still has room to grow. The searcher receives another message. This one contains only a single sentence. They didn't react with excitement. A puzzled silence fills the room. "What do you mean?" someone asks. The reply comes a few moments later. They became very quiet. The searcher understands immediately. There are moments when joy is too deep for immediate celebration. Sometimes the heart needs time to absorb what it has waited years to hear. Not every miracle begins with shouting. Some begin with tears no one else can see. Some begin with a long breath after carrying invisible weight for far too long. Some begin with peaceful silence. The office slowly empties as evening approaches. Most of the work is complete. The missing pieces have finally found one another. Yet one question continues echoing through everyone's mind. What happens next? Finding the truth is only one part of the journey. Living in the light of that truth is another. Outside, the sky changes from gold to deep blue. A gentle breeze moves through the trees. The ordinary beauty of the evening reminds the searcher of something easily forgotten. Life does not stop while important moments unfold. It keeps moving, inviting every new chapter to become part of the ordinary days that follow. Perhaps that is where true transformation happens. Not only in extraordinary moments, but in ordinary mornings lived with renewed hope. The searcher opens the old photograph once more. The faded sentence on the back seems almost alive now. When the time is right, this will find its way home. Home. Not merely a place. A feeling. A sense of belonging after wandering through uncertainty. A quiet confidence that what was once missing has finally begun finding its rightful place. Many spend years searching for that feeling. Sometimes they search in success. Sometimes in recognition. Sometimes in the approval of others. Yet the deepest sense of home often begins within the heart itself. It grows wherever truth, peace, and hope decide to remain together. One final report arrives before the office closes. It confirms that every important detail has been verified. Nothing more needs proving. Nothing more needs defending. The search is complete. Yet strangely, no one feels that the story has ended. Instead, everyone senses that the real beginning is only now approaching. Because discovering truth changes information. Accepting truth changes people. The searcher gently places every document into a single folder. Not to hide it. To protect it. Some stories deserve careful hands. Some moments deserve quiet respect. As the lights are turned off, the searcher looks back one last time. For days, this room was filled with questions. Tonight, it is filled with peace. Not because every mystery has been answered. Because enough has been revealed to take the next faithful step. Far away, you stand beneath the same evening sky without realizing how many unseen paths have quietly converged. The waiting season that once felt endless has begun to loosen its grip. The answers are no longer drifting farther away. They are drawing closer with every passing hour. Yet one final detail remains hidden. A detail no document ever mentioned. A detail no witness remembered. A detail that cannot be discovered inside a file or written across a page. It exists inside a conversation that has not yet happened. A conversation between two people. One who has been searching. and one who never expected to be found. As the first stars appear above the horizon, a phone begins to ring. The searcher reaches for it calmly. On the other end, a quiet voice speaks only one sentence. "I think, they're finally ready to hear the whole story." The searcher closes their eyes for a brief moment, smiles with quiet gratitude, and replies. Then tomorrow, everything changes. But neither of them realizes that before tomorrow arrives, one unexpected visitor will appear carrying a truth even greater than the one they have spent so long trying to uncover.